I'm Tim Ellis, and thank you for joining us for Laneway Live. All this week, we're coming to you from a different location within the Laneway Theatre. Tonight, we're in the graveyard, a secret part of a secret theatre. And what better place to chat with Australia's best kept magical secret?
Yay! Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Now, where are you located? It doesn't look like your secret abode I've seen before. It's a different place.
No, indeed it is. This is my humble abode here in Melbourne, and it's just all on my lonesome, enjoying the solitude of being locked in and just binge watching all the amazing interviews you've done on this show thus far. And it's been really cool to watch. I mean, you've got a pretty serious caliber of magicians, and I'm very flattered to be part of that. You know, like it's like watching David Regal's one, especially for me, that was awesome because I really identified how he says how he creates, like he does music. And I was in a band for 10 years before I got into magic. So it was nice having that mindset, you know, where you go, oh my God, I identify with you. And especially when you can have that moment where, like, me as a creator looking at someone like that and going like, oh, our brains are kind of the same. That's an exciting moment, you know, to know that you have the right thought process when creating stuff.
And so now in quarantine, you get to spend a bit more time focusing on just creating. And the good thing, of course, is your original Melbourne Magic Festival show was One Lonely Guy.
Indeed it was, you know, and straight out of the vein of Corona. No, yeah, it was a really interesting way that I got into magic. In fact, so if we were to take it right back, the way I got into magic, friends, was I quit smoking is the long and short of this. Quite a long story, but the short version is I quit smoking and I started carrying a pack of playing cards where my cigarettes used to go. And rather than having a cigarette with the guys whenever we went to the pub or whatever, I would just get my cards out and I would tinker. A year later, I entered a magic competition, which I won. And then about 6 months after that, I got an agent and then I just started doing gigs and I did more and more gigs. And before I knew it, I kind of went pro in the space of no time. And during that time, I met amazing people like yourself, Tim. In fact, I would say the linchpin between you and I, and basically with me and everyone else in the magic world, was Nicholas J. Johnson. If you don't know who he is, he's not only a great performer, a great human, and an author. I've got his book right there. He was the kind of reason that I'm in this realm anyway. There was this really awesome moment where he used to host these things called the Variety Collective, but it was this weekly variety night where we had like singers, circus folk, magic folk, you name it, and it was 5 acts every Wednesday at a venue out in Brunswick, and we used to do that every single week. And he actually asked me to come and be part of that committee eventually. But that's where my first magic performance actually happened, in that venue, like my very first one. And the very first time I performed on stage was at the VC. Yeah, no kidding. And
you've been a regular at the Melbourne Magic Festival in the audience prior to that.
Correct. Yeah. So then I went during that time, and I also came into my first show, which was awesome. And that was the year that we had Horace Wilde, and that was such a nice eye opener, you know. And then also not to be overzealous, but it was also like, when you don't have any realms to scope out magic other than the internet, like you see this caliber of magic on the internet now, and especially like in the world of YouTube, like there's amazing creators out there. So you look at all that stuff and then you go to a live show and you see what was happening. And now this was well over 10 years ago, where it wasn't really so much amazing content like there is now. But, you know, I would see these guys' acts and I would be like, this is nothing like the YouTube guys that I watch. And that kind of inspired me to go, okay, I want to step up and I want to elevate what's happening here in Oz as best I can in that realm. And then I remember doing a show which I was invited to by Johnson. So Nick Johnson, I did this show and it was really funny. I was at a point in my life where I was at a kind of an all-time low after a pretty serious breakup. And I honestly didn't want to get out of bed that day. And I remember that I had this show at the VC, and I take pride in being a professional, knowing that like, no matter how bummed out you are, a professional always performs. That's your deal. And so I go do this show and everyone loved it. And everyone thought it was awesome. And Johnson put in a good word with you, like literally on the phone was like, this guy Nick's here, he's crushing the game. You need to offer him a spot at the Magic Fest. And then I finished my set. At the end of the night, he comes over to me, he goes, there's this guy, Tim, he wants to offer you 5 nights at the festival. Will you do it? And I did it. And that's when I did the show One Lonely Guy, because I guess where I was after a breakup and just sort of having that mindset that, you know, magicians are constantly framed as these amazing superhumans with gorgeous girls and tigers and all sorts of stuff. And the reality is that we're very lonely men with an abundance of magic books and all the spare time in the world to practice them in our bedrooms, you know? So I just wanted to take that notion, flip it on its head, treat it with a lot of comedy and a lot of really pleasant intent, which is just to make my audience smile. So yeah, that was like my first great learning experience. And you probably remember my first show because it went into overtime and it drove you mental.
It was with Magic Fest, we were supposed to do like 45 minutes, maybe 50. And how long was your show?
A little bit longer than that, Tim. Not much more. It was like almost an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like it was out of control. Yeah. And then we make jokes about it for the next 3 years, where it's like we should make a show called Nick K, All You Can Eat, and it's just like as much magic as you can handle before you have to walk out of the place. Which is why I think that I came in handy when we went for the world record of the world's longest magic show. So that was a good experience.
The world's longest magic show, which you sort of almost started by yourself in that show.
I am a trendsetter, my friend. I'm definitely a trendsetter.
So the interesting thing was after the One Lonely Guy show, you decided to be very ambitious and include your love of technology in a show that involved a massive video screen with back projection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of inspired by conversations with other magicians. One in particular was with the amazing Raymond Crowe. For those of you that don't know who Raymond Crowe is, do your diligence and please look him up and look up his shadow act. He's an amazing Aussie magician and an even better human. And one of the things he sort of really pushed for was to put as many skill sets as you have into your performance. And my skills as well as a magician, like I do a lot of things outside of this, you know, like a lot of guys come down to me for being like, why aren't you doing more festival shows? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And I just have to explain to them, I don't know if I feel overzealous saying it, but like the reality is that I'm a businessman first, and then I'm a magician second, and like a sales guy third, and an audio tech, and then a lighting tech, and a this and a that, and a gin distiller, and all sorts of stuff. So like I do a whole myriad of things.
That last one caught me off guard.
Yeah, I love gin. So the idea of taking the technology was great because I also have an audiovisual business, and so I got one of my massive, like I think it's like 4 by something high. We've used it several times. A massive screen with rear projection that I was then interacting with the show. It had these beautiful red curtains that in between each set they would close and then open up to a new backdrop, and it was just really fun. And I just wanted to be really ambitious and just take the skill sets that I had and apply them into my magic world, which is why eventually I got involved with a company called In the Air. They're an amazing company operating out of Belgium, run by Clement Kirsten, who's one of the most amazing coin magicians that I've ever seen. They released a DVD set, he and his business partner, called Fucking Coins. And so have fun editing that one. And and yeah, so he was here studying at the time, was familiar with some of my work, and then invited me to come be part of his business and to run the Australasian entity, which is how I then got into iPad magic. which has been such a blast and such a challenge creatively. And you know, it sucks how niche it is because I love doing it. And there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of cost involved into it, a lot of time that gets put into it with regards to programming and everything else. But when you have an opportunity to do it, it is just the greatest, you know? And so it's just amazing that if you do have a different skill set, like one of the things that I hadn't actually been able to put into my shows thus far is, you know, I was in a band for 10 years called All or Nothing, and or AON. And, you know, we had management, we had toured, we had even had video clips on Rage. And I've never put anything to do with like playing guitar or music into my act yet. And I keep challenging myself to do that. And I don't know, I think a part of me just sort of dislikes what I'm doing with it. I just feel like there's a certain flow that lacks with it or something like that. You know what I mean? But I do always challenge myself to do that. So until I find a way to actually put the guitar into my act, it'll be interesting, I think. I have one more idea, which I'm about to get going through. I'm actually jamming the idea with my good friend, Matt Casey. He's another great magician who performs in one of our residencies. And yeah, so like I'm sort of just still always throwing ideas around and creating, but it's good to challenge yourself.
Oh, so you told me the idea, but you've got an idea, but you're not going to tell me what the idea is.
Well, it's just an idea to the idea of maybe having someone think of a song,
yeah,
and then try to decipher the song they're thinking of as you're holding the guitar, till eventually you can sort of, through just hitting certain notes, and then maybe find the key that resonates with them in that moment, and then sort of expand upon it. And so there's an idea to it. I don't know how great it is, but the thing is, I think it's always great to explore as many things as possible, and to really think about it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's very funny. That being said, like I'm a big fan in classics. I think the classics are classics for a reason. And that's my theory. But then there's so many theories out there that people throw who say don't do classics. I think that Joshua J himself will say like classics, forget about them and do something else. It's interesting because I think that they're classics for a reason, and so you should have your own version of that. You know, it's the idea of like the coins across. I have my coins across. The invisible palm, I have my invisible palm, which I'm like extremely proud about. The invisible deck, I have my own version of the invisible deck, which is a bit of a reputation maker for me if you haven't seen it. So it's really important to explore things like that and not take what everything is said in books as gospel. You know, like one of my favorite books, like right here, this is Tommy Wonder's Books of Wonder. You know, his mentality is everybody wants to see magic, they just don't know it yet. Whereas my mentality is, if someone doesn't want to see magic, leave them alone and go somewhere else, you know? Because I perform in the corporate world, and the reason for that thought process is that there could be a situation where you are performing at a gig and you want to show magic to a certain person. It might be a CEO or someone of authority, but that guy also invited a potential prospect that night. He's been waiting all night to talk to that other person, and all of a sudden you come over and go, hey, you want to see a trick? And you ruin his flow, and you can't close that $6 billion deal or whatever it might be. You need to give people the opportunity to go, no, thanks, mate, we're good. And just go, no worries, if you want to see more, just do this, I'll come back, I'll see you later, and leave them alone, because that's something you need to be wary of when you're in certain environments.
Well, the other thing I like about your approach is that you'll personalize everything. You'll create a lot of magic. For example, with Holy Moly, the golf course you perform at, or used to perform at, but in the old days before.
I have every faith. I have every faith we'll be back there. But yeah. But
then also the stuff we did with the Mikey with the trams. I'll show a quick clip of this just to give an idea.
Hi there, I'm Magician Nick the Bubble, and I'm here to tell you guys about fairy evasion. You see, what's happening is people are getting on our trams with this. Nothing. What they need to do is travel with one of these, a Mikey card. Now you can purchase or top up these Mikey cards at over 800 retailers, including all 7-Eleven stores, all train stations, as well as major bus and tram intersections. Because you see, traveling without one of these can result in one of these. And on-the-spot fine. These on-the-spot fines mean that you'll be out of pocket, and all you had to do was purchase a Mikey card and tap on. So to avoid getting one of these, and of course having to spend any of this unnecessarily, do yourself a favor and buy yourself a Mikey.
Thank you for traveling with Yarra Trams.
Oh, we're not in a tram? Guys, there's no tram.
And I really like the way that you will adapt things, and you're constantly trying to work in products or work in objects or work in different things into your magic, and even with the costuming as well.
Well, yeah, the costuming is a very interesting one. And I think that just with regards to given a scope of creating, now it's the kind of thing that when I think about creating something, there are so many methods out there. And the way I try to imagine it is this, it's like imagine having a wall and it's covered with every single method you can use to vanish a coin. Okay. And then, but what's happening is that you're creating without restriction or without a guide or a scope. And then what happens is you got this wash light and you can see every single option available to you, which is something that can make you feel a little overwhelmed. And you go, well, what do I do? And you might start with something really primitive. So for example, let's do something like this, where you can vanish a coin. All right. You go like this, right? But then you might want to do it single-handedly. So you do something like this or whatever it might be. The point is that if you create restrictions where you start saying, okay, I want to be able to vanish coin, and I want to be able to do it with one hand, with my sleeve up, and then show both sides of the end of it. Now, all of a sudden you've gone, I want to vanish a coin. I want to do it with one hand. I want to do it with a sleeve up, and I want to show both. And so what happens is all of a sudden that beam now has gone down to this, and that's your scope. And for me, it's a lot easier to think about and focus on magic or how to solve the problem or create, because I was very torn with the fact for quite a long time, am I a creator or a problem solver? And I found that I'm a little bit of both, because it's like I have something I need to achieve that doesn't exist, no methods exist, and now I have to create that. So that was a really fun place to be. And anyone who's seen my previous lectures, you know, like I've lectured at GenieCon, which is run by Sean Taylor, where I was a star lecturer, and that was one of the best experiences ever. Like it was such a great convention, you know. I honestly rated it over Magic Live. It was the best. And we had such an amazing lineup of magicians. You know, Silly Billy was there. What's his name? Super handsome fella from the UK, card guy. Someone's going to kick me for not mentioning this. You know who I'm talking about, the guy from the UK. Crap. It's escaped me. If I got my... I know Chihan's yelling at the screen right now going, you know who he is. But just, you know, amazing guys. And then there was me up against them, you know, just like Levent was there, you know, and we're performing and I have to follow Levent. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that guy's a Jedi. I love him. But it was great because I was doing stuff there and it was so well received. And one of the things that I covered was with regards to costuming. And I'll send you a bunch of photos so that you can actually share this as we're talking it over. Like, I've done performances as like a magic genie. I've done performances, you know, as a cat. I've done performances as a professor, where I have like white hair and this whole weird getup. I've done like, they wanted a Greek magician once. So I did like Zoba the Greek magician, and I had to wear like white tights and puffy things, like a skirt thing. That was a really good one. Yeah, and then I've got the one that I do with the iPad magic, where I'm an android. I do this like android character as well. Now the thing is, creatively, whenever I'm creating my magic, one of the things that I specialize in is my suits. So my suits are kind of like Iron Man suits, and I'm able to achieve so many amazing things when I wear my suit. You know, I'm effectively like the Tony Stark of magic. Like, I'm okay without it. Like, I'm still pretty badass, but when I put the suit on, I'm unstoppable. And that's one of the things I have. Now, when I lectured there, I had the model, which was the Mark V. I now, since then, have a Mark VII model, which is off the charts, and I can achieve some just beautiful pieces of magic, especially as part of my roving gigs, you know. people spin out with the amount of magic I can do with just my suit on. And when I walk on stage or walk in front of a group or parlor setting, and I just go, how many pockets do you have? I don't think I've counted how many I have in the new one, but the old one had 36 compartments in total of all the things I could do, and load all the bits of magic in there. And just the thought process was very simple, you know, and the lecture was great because I called it like the Iron Man lecture, which, you know, was the idea was when you put a suit on, like, what do you become? And the beauty of it was that it allowed me to do something that no one else was able to do, because no one else was going to go through the notions of actually being able to do that. So it really helped set me apart and create and have these sort of these pieces of magic that I'm now like really well known for, where I can take someone's mobile phone, vanish it, and have it appear inside my wallet. You know, like these are really, really great moments. Or producing entire bottles of wine from my jacket. Like these are really, really great moments that, you know, no one sees coming. And it's all because I committed to the idea and found the right people to back me up, you know, respectively my tailor, you know, and Tim, you were also a big part of that as well, because for those of you who don't know, Tim's like one of the best brains to bounce magic off.
Well, it's just because I showed you the blue jacket, isn't it?
Do you miss it, the blue jacket? Is it kind of like, was that like your Mark 7?
It was my only one. It was my only one. The blue jacket legend.
You know, you can make more. I mean, I've got like a red one and a green one, and now my black one, which is the Mark 7, which I was just getting ready to update and put a few improvements into. So it'd be like a Mark 7.1. I think it's still very much a Mark 7, but these are really, really great moments that you can have. And it's so weird because like I choreograph everything around my suit, and even when I'm performing like in a t-shirt, I find myself pulling my sleeves up.
Well, here's a challenge. I mean, what can you do for us now in your t-shirt?
Yeah, sure. That sounds like a good fun. There's a couple of pieces that I really challenged myself to create, and this is something that I am kind of reworking. Let me see if I can frame this up okay on the close-up mask. And that should look pretty okay with the scotch out of the way. How is that? Okay, this should work pretty fun. This is a trick that I'm reworking at the moment. And we'll see how it's all going to be very well received. I'm doing my best to not kick my table and shake the camera. So here we go. It's a trick that uses 4 coins and a glass. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I hope you can see that okay, Tim? Oops. Yeah?
Yep.
Is that a yes? Great, terrific. Now, the idea is this, that you can reach in, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but when you squeeze, you can actually see a coin appear with a simple squeeze, leaving 3 behind in the glass. This is a really interesting premise. I don't really have a great storyline with it or anything like that, but just quite simply to reach in there, place it in your hand, snap, and make a coin appear. And the beauty of this trick is that it's all done with the squeeze. Yeah, in fact, if I squeeze now, you can see it go straight through the glass, which is a really fun moment right there. And you can allow people at this point to actually inspect the glass and check it out and so forth. And you can see full well that there's, you know, no way of actually seeing what's in there, because you can get this coin to go through your hand and even to get it come at like the bottom of the glass, but it never goes back the other way. It's like the strangest thing. But here's where my favorite piece of magic is now in the trick. So you have 1, 2, 3 coins, and you square them up. Make sure that this looks as fair as possible, Tim. Right there. Okay. Can I go from the top, the side, or under the glass? The only way for it to go anywhere is to go. Sorry, I dropped the coin. To go through the bottom. So watch close. I'm not sure, do you see that? Okay, but that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 coins. This kind of leads us up into a couple of other classics in magic. For example, going like 1, 2, 3, and you push, and you can hear it actually go through the table. Yeah. Which is a nice, super cool classic in magic. 1, 2, 3. And, oh, sorry, I'm doing this the wrong way. This one goes in there. Watch close. So we go 1, 2, and a push, and it goes through the table very fairly. This is a great moment because you can show 2 very fairly here, and you can see 1, and we can see 2 as fair as can be. Watch close. We go 1, and we push. And then we have our 3, as far as can be. And from here, we can go 1, we can go 2, we can go 3, yeah. And of course, 1 remains. It's great because you can always hear it go through. If you just push, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Yeah, so I've been jamming these ideas back and forth. So that's just more or less the sort of mechanics of it. But I think the idea of, like, if you look at it, really decipher it, pull it back, identify each move, is it justified? When I first wrote it, like I engineered it so that I had people involved, which is not what I can do right here. So the idea of like taking the glass, letting them inspect it, let them really, it's because it helps to sell the effect, and people think that, oh, there's something with the glass. So then how do you combat that? So always asking yourself, if someone's saying this, what can I do to combat that? You know, what can I do to improve that? And especially with coin magic, which I think I love. It's probably my favorite discipline in magic, coin magic. And I was having a situation where I was performing a little while ago where I kept having this comment brought up, and I didn't want to ignore it. And then I started jamming the idea of other magicians. I'm like, why are they saying this? Why would they say that? Like, there's no motivation for them to say that or to think that. And then I basically deciphered that it was only happening around guys with their girlfriends who were getting very intimidated by me performing around them, like on first dates. And so I had to change the whole routine's the same, but change the pattern, change everything to make it more comfortable. And then what I do now is I celebrate him in the routine. I celebrate him as the hero of the whole routine, which makes him love me and make sure that they smile and they have a good time. Because even though it wasn't my intention, I had to realize that this is happening and not ignore that. It's the kind of thing when you're doing a performance and a magician blames the audience. I'm really against that. Like, I'm really against that. In fact, I think it was my very first Magic Festival performance where I was performing, and I'm out in the foyer and people are high-fiving and they walk by and they're going, great show and everything else. And this woman comes up to me and she says, great show, loved it, but I know how. And I was like, wow, you must be an awesome magician then. And she went, no, I can see the wires hanging at the back of your vest. And I turn around and all it was my my headset microphone. The cable had come unraveled a little bit and was hanging out the back of my pants. And so she thought that was the method for the entire show, that I was using strings underneath my vest to achieve all the bits of magic that I was doing. And I felt, in that moment, I felt so guilty. Now, anyone else would probably have this mindset where it's like, well, she's stupid for thinking that. And I just went, no. I didn't think about that. I didn't think that if this thing comes undone, are people going to think a certain way or whatever else? And ultimately, she walked away from this performance not having the experience she should have. And it's all because I failed to take enough care to make sure my microphone cable wasn't hanging out of my vest. So there's a level of accountability that we magicians need to have if we're gonna ever elevate ourselves to be these really, really awesome, polished performers. And a lot of people don't think about it that way. And so if you are that magician, think about it. Listen to your audience. They know what's up.
Well, one of the good things is we have our magicians at work, or used to have our magicians at work every month, where magicians could perform and get feedback from the audience. And we'd always encourage the audience to give honest feedback by writing anonymous comments. And I remember...
and it's so... Go on. Sorry, my fault.
That's all right. I was going to say, okay. I remember one performer did some mind reading and got the feedback from someone saying, your shirt came up and we could see your belly. And he was quite angry, saying, I just read 6 minds and the audience, that's all they could think of was looking at my belly. I'm like, that's golden. That's the best feedback you'll ever get, because they were too distracted to concentrate. And it's the same thing with the wires hanging out of your back. The lady was distracted because she thought, I can see the method. So she was not engaged, not connected with the show anymore.
Exactly right. And you know what, the funniest thing is that every now and again, this happens sparingly, but I always pull my sleeves up, okay, when I perform. Yeah. As much as I can. And then people keep saying to me, why do you keep pulling your sleeves up? And I go, because if I don't, you'll say that it's going up my sleeve. And they go, oh, all right, go again. And it's such a weird mindset and a weird place to be, when you have that. mentality. So like even just before with that performance, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, next time, I mean, this isn't the table I would ordinarily perform on. But the idea is like, practice the routine on a table you haven't done it before, you know? Make sure that nothing's going to obstruct you when you go down under the table. So like I just knocked the leg here. I got the legs right here. This is why I keep shaking the table. These are little things that we need to, sorry. These are little things we need to be accountable for. And we got to take the moment and think about it. We got to appreciate that there's somebody on that side of the room and they're not going to be able to see what's up, or a person on that side of the room and they're not going to be able to see something. Or, you know, I performed recently at this awesome conference out in Phillip Island. And this room was super long. And these people were here and I was all the way back here, right? And I knew that those folks in the back weren't going to be able to see or be part of it as great as I want them to be. So I told the organizer, I go, I'm going to row for these people first, right? Just to make sure they do see some magic. And then when I do the show, it'll be great. Now there was 2 people here at this particular conference, but when I got on stage, because I had built a rapport with the guys at the very back of the room, when I spoke and when I addressed the audience, there was no people murmuring. There was no people like that. I had their full attention because I had that moment of going, I know how this is going to go down. And I need to take the steps to make everyone accountable and make sure that everyone is a part of this and everyone has the best experience. It was really funny. It's a really funny thing, you know? So
it's a good tip. It's a good tip. Unfortunately, we are going to run out of time here any moment. So I'm going to put in a request. Can I see a little demonstration of your latest version of your money magic with bills?
Yeah, so you're talking about the splitting the bill trick. Yes. That I'm really proud of that piece of magic. That was inspired by a lot of different people. It's a trick essentially where I take a bill and with a magical wave over my hand, I increase its domination by double. So it's like from a 5 to a 10 or a 50 to 100. And then I can take the bill and tear it into, like if it's from a 10, I can tear it into 2 5s and it's 2 clean $5 bills and away you go. Really proud of that piece of magic because, you know, Simon Coronel, one of Australia's best, he has one of the greatest bill change routines out there. And so he inspired me to make my own. And I thought to myself, like, well, how would I want it to be? Like, if I was really magic, do I want to fold it 1,000 times? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And again, I just took the ideas of going, I want to do a bill change. I don't want to fold it 1,000 times. I don't want to do this. And I want to give it back to someone once I'm done. So I just narrowed my focus until I eventually found the answer. And then, you know, started performing it. And yeah, it's interesting when you create, because for me, like, I think that trick went under maybe 6 or 7 generations. Like most everything I create, even the suit, that's its 7th generation. For me, it takes at least 7 goes before I'm happy with it in its final state. And then even then, I'll still keep polishing and still keep getting better and better and better. So,
well,
yeah,
now you are sitting in isolation for whoever knows how long. So I'm looking forward to the next versions, the updated versions of Splitting the Bill. Because every time I've seen you do it, it's just a little bit better each time.
And that's the way magic is supposed to be. I think if we're constantly, you know, we shouldn't only be improving our magic. We should be trying to improve as people. One of the best bits of advice I ever got was from Anthony DeMasi. And he just said, just be good at life and the magic will come. And I was like, he doesn't remember saying that, but those are the best words that ever, like the best bits of advice regarding magic that I've ever been given. And I basically, I live by them now, you know, and that's what we should do. We should be trying to just become better people and become better magicians and understand what your intent is when you perform. You know, a great question that was asked to me recently was, what's your superpower? Like, what do you mean? It's like, you're a mind reader? Is that your superpower? Are you a mind reader? Or you're a card guy, so your superpower is cards. Whereas my superpower is making people smile, because that's my intention by doing magic. And I just lead with the intent that I'm only here to make you smile, make sure you have a good time. And that is it. I'm not here to fool you, make you feel stupid, or do anything other, you know? So my advice is, in this, if you're a magician out there, figure out your superpower, focus on your intent, and make sure your intent is a good one, because what you have is a gift. And if people don't want to receive that gift, you get to keep it for yourself and give it to someone who deserves it. That's really important to remember. They never feel rejected if someone doesn't want to see your magic. It's got nothing to do with you. you offering them a gift and they're saying, no, thank you. You just keep the gift and find someone who does deserve it and deserve to see your magic.
And be good at life.
Be good at life. Don't suck as a human, you know?
Well, thank you for your time. And it's been good to catch up with you. And I hope to catch up with you again at Magicians at Work or Magic Sports or the festival or anywhere that we get to visit again one day in real life.
I hope so, Tim. And I know you're not a big fan of hugs, but guess what? When this Corona thing's been lifted, you're getting one.
Hey, that's the one advantage I have, being an introvert Aspie. This is what I do. I'm
Just
in my
hanging out in graveyards?
hanging out in graveyards by myself.
I'm just here with all my friends. Did you
Yes.
bury them there? That's weird.
We're having a good time. See you later, Nick. Goodbye.
Goodbye, friends. Thanks for watching.